what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Living in Truth. I'm Aaron Brooks. Glad to have you here with us today. Looking forward to talking about today's topic. Who is my neighbor? Jesus was asked this really important question. But before we can get into the question, we have to understand where it's coming from. We've referenced before the 212 Levitical laws. We've referenced how those became the 10 commandments and how we as people, this was back in Jesus' time, but us as humans, we just didn't do a very good job even with 10 rules. So they asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? And he gives his answer. And let's go ahead and jump right into the handy dandy Bible app and we'll read that so we can go a little bit further. So, Matthew chapter 22. This is people talking to Jesus here. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. Okay, so we can't keep up with 10. Maybe we can keep up with 2. So Jesus sets us up and says, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as you love yourself. These two things are like one another. So the one is the great first commandment. The second one is like it. So it can't be separated. They're bound together. And this is what ties all of everything else together. It's not that difficult. This is where we way overcomplicate things. If you love God and you love people as you love yourself, the world's going to be a whole lot better place and you're going to fall in alignment with what God has for you anyway. That's kind of the quick and dirty, Jesus broke it down like, look, just focus on those things and the other things will fall in order, because if you truly love your neighbor, if you truly love yourself, if you truly love God first, then it won't be difficult to honor your father and your mother. It won't be difficult to not kill. It won't be difficult to not steal. It won't be difficult to not talk bad about somebody behind their back. So that's why those are so critical, and that's why it's the foundation, right? So later on in Luke, there's a group of people, and this guy, have you ever felt smart? Like, oh, I got a good question. Like, yeah, big brain plays only, right? Like, that's like 5 head. Anyway, let's go to our handy dandy Bible app again. And let's hear from an astute lawyer in Luke chapter 10. And behold, a lawyer stood up to put him to the test. Somebody putting Jesus to the test. Anyway, saying, Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He said to him, what is written in the law? How do you read it? And he answered, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And he said to him, you have answered correctly. Do this and you will live. Okay. All right. Like, that seems simple enough, right? Where are you going with this? He couldn't help himself. He's a lawyer, right? He says, but he, desiring to justify himself, said to Jesus, and who is my neighbor? We'll get back to that. That's a funny question to me. Who is my neighbor? Jesus replied, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. Now, by chance, a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him, bound up his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he set him on his own animal and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And the next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, "Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, I will repay you when I come back." Which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? He said, "The one who showed him mercy." And Jesus said to him, "You go and do likewise." So there's a few things in there. One, the man paid 2 denarii. What's a denarii? Simply, that's a day's wage for a worker back in the day. So that's 2 days worth of work that he just said, "Here, take this, and whatever else you've got that goes over that, I'll come back and I'll take care of it. But this should show you, enough to get started." And so it was a good amount of money, but it wasn't a small gift by any means. So the question posed to Jesus was, who is my neighbor? So this lawyer thinks he's going to be clever, thinks he's going to be smart. And he's like, okay, if I have to love my neighbor as I love myself, who's my neighbor? In other words, I only want to love the people that I have to. I don't want to show love to everybody. I want to show love to the people who are my neighbor, and whoever my neighbor is, I'll follow that, because he's a lawyer. He's trying to follow the letter of the law. And so he's trying to trip Jesus up. So Jesus he doesn't answer the question. He gives a parable. And then the man has to answer his own question. Jesus is I love Jesus so much. Anyway, the parable with the Samaritan comes in. So the priest goes by, priest, pastor, elder, good Christian leader, whatever, walks by and doesn't help. Then the Levite, who is the priest's assistant, essentially, in the temple, takes care of the church, or takes care of the temple, takes care of the needs of the priest, those kind of things. Oh, I'm not touching that. That's dirty, I ain't having none of that. And then the Samaritan is coming through. And the thing about the Samaritan, if you haven't heard the story before, you probably don't know, but Samaritans were just hated. They were low man on the totem pole. They were, in society, they were not well respected, not well liked. So for the Samaritan in the story that Jesus is telling, so this is a parable. So Jesus is telling people who innately don't like Samaritans, go be like Samaritans, because in this case, they're the ones that show mercy, is kind of like a jab that way too. It's like, just check yourself, just make sure you're keeping your mind right, keeping yourself right, and not being prejudiced against people. So Jesus answers the question, who's my neighbor, by giving a story about a couple of different people who, the first 2, you probably would want to be your neighbor. The final one, you don't want to be associated with at all, much less be a neighbor. So which one of them which one of them followed the law? And the lawyer has to answer the one who showed mercy. And then Jesus says, go be like him. Take care of one another. Even the people who don't like you, the people who hurt you, the people who speak ill against you. You have to take care of them if you're going to be like the Good Samaritan, if you're going to follow loving God first and loving your neighbor as you love yourself. You've got to take care of those people, even if they don't take care of you. So I hope this is kind of a challenge a little bit to say, oh man, I can do better in this area, in this area. It's not meant to condemn anybody, not meant to make anybody feel bad, just to, okay, I can do better at this, or I can do better at that, and work with one another, build one another up, and we'll be good to go. what we're supposed to do as part of the family of God. Part of being brothers and sisters. So, who's my neighbor? Everybody. So it's like, I don't know, I keep getting this in my head. It keeps going back to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? Yeah, won't you be my neighbor? So that's where my head keeps going. And I don't think that's what he meant. I don't think that was the intention of that, but it fits so well with bringing people in. Would you be my neighbor? Would you let me love you? Would you let me care for you? Would you let me be good to you? So what can we do for one another inside this group and outside the group? What can this group do for those that we come in contact with? We got people from all over the place. And, but still a network of believers. We're still the family of God, and we still have one purpose. And we're going to keep the main thing. We're going to love God. We're going to love people. So, anyway, I hope that, maybe this little bit of a look into it where sometimes we try to outsmart. We try to justify our own stuff, right? We try to dig in a little bit and say, okay, God, give me the answer to where I got a loophole. You got to stop looking for loopholes. That's what this lawyer was doing. He was looking for a way to do the least. But Jesus tells us to do everything as we're doing it unto God, right? I think somebody made a video about that not too long ago. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But we have to do everything as unto God. Everything. Our act of service is to Him first. So I hope this has helped you a little bit. I hope it's encouraged you to say, hey, I could do a little bit more. I can do a little bit better. I can open my eyes and see who my neighbors are. Because my neighbor is really everybody around me, those people I come in contact with, and I'm to serve them as I serve God. And I want to be like Jesus as much as possible. So that's all I got for you today. Love you very much. If you don't mind, if you'd give us a like, comment below. Let us know something else that you want to chat about. We're going to go back and touch on some of those other Bible stories that you guys commented on a little while back. Maybe you've got a story that you've experienced that, you had an opportunity to share or witness somebody else being a good Samaritan. Let us know. Encourage that with somebody. Maybe God's doing something really cool in your life, and we got Mustard Seed Monday on the way. So you're not going to want to miss that. Send in your submissions. Email us, DM us, whatever it takes. Let's get your story out there and build the faith together, right? So thank you guys for being here. Love you very, very much. So glad to have you here as a part and to be part of this thing that is the family of God. Until next time, see ya.